In the quiet village of Koodathayi in Kerala, life followed a familiar rhythm shaped by routine, faith, and close family ties. People trusted one another. Doors were left open. Meals were shared without hesitation. For years, nothing about the Thomas family seemed unusual, let alone dangerous. Yet within this ordinary setting, one of the most chilling crime stories in modern Indian history unfolded slowly, patiently, and almost invisibly. At the center of it all was Jolly Joseph, a woman who would later be revealed as the architect of a 17-year killing spree carried out with chilling calm and extraordinary deception. The story began in 2002 with the sudden death of Anama Thomas. She was the matriarch of the family, deeply religious and respected within the community. On the day she died, the family had gathered for prayer, a routine moment that carried no hint of danger. After drinking a glass of water, Anama collapsed. Panic followed, but suspicion did not. At her age, a heart attack seemed like the obvious explanation. Doctors confirmed the cause of death without an autopsy, and the family mourned as families do, believing they were victims of fate. Jolly Joseph, Anama's daughter-in-law, appeared inconsolable. She cried openly, comforted relatives, and took on responsibilities with an efficiency that many admired. Her behavior reinforced the image of a devoted family member, someone who could be relied upon during moments of loss. No one noticed anything unusual. No one imagined that this moment marked the beginning of a carefully planned series of murders. At the time, Jolly was already living behind a meticulously constructed false identity. She claimed to be a professor at the National Institute of Technology, Calicut, one of the most prestigious engineering institutions in the region. Each morning, she left the house dressed for work, carrying books and files, telling her family she was heading to campus. In reality, she had never worked there. She had never held the position she described. Yet the lie went unquestioned. Education commanded respect, and her supposed profession gave her authority, independence, and credibility within the household. Years passed, and life continued. The death of Anama slowly faded into memory. Then, in 2008, tragedy struck again. Anama's husband, Tom Thomas, fell ill after dinner and died suddenly. Once more, the explanation was simple and reassuring: natural causes. He was older, and sudden illness was not uncommon. Once again, Jolly was present, calm, composed, and supportive. She helped organize funeral arrangements and offered comfort to grieving relatives. To outsiders, she appeared to be a woman burdened by repeated loss, yet handling it with remarkable strength. With both elders gone, the structure of the family shifted. Property ownership, inheritance, and authority within the household became more significant, even if they were not openly discussed. Jolly understood these dynamics well. She also understood patience. Nothing needed to happen quickly. Time itself was one of her most effective tools. In 2011, the pattern continued. Roy Thomas, Jolly's husband and the son of Anama and Tom, was found dead in his bedroom. A note was discovered, and the death was ruled a suicide. Roy had struggled with employment and personal issues, making the conclusion believable. The authorities saw no reason to dig deeper. For the family, the loss was devastating, but again, it seemed like another cruel twist of fate. Jolly became the grieving widow. She wore her sorrow convincingly, leaning on the sympathy of others while quietly consolidating control over the family home and assets. She continued to claim she was working as a professor, maintaining the illusion of stability and respectability. Her daily routine remained unchanged. No one questioned why a woman who had lost her husband and in-laws seemed so composed. Strength, they believed, took many forms. Behind this facade, Jolly's motivations were becoming clearer. Property ownership meant security. Control meant freedom. With Roy gone, she faced fewer obstacles to reshaping her life. Yet there were still others who stood in her way. In 2014, Roy's uncle Matthew died suddenly after sharing a meal with Jolly. Once again, the explanation was natural causes. The death was mourned, but no alarm was raised. Each incident occurred years apart, spaced just far enough to avoid drawing attention. Each victim was closely connected to Jolly, but that fact alone was not enough to spark suspicion in a community built on trust. What no one knew was that Jolly had access to cyanide, a fast-acting poison that leaves little trace if not immediately tested for. Investigators later learned that she obtained it by posing as a student, claiming she needed it for academic research. The lie fit perfectly with her fabricated identity as a professor. No one questioned her request. No records were kept that raised red flags. The poison became her weapon of choice, silent and efficient. The most disturbing chapter came in 2016. A 2-year-old child named Alphine, known as Alfie, fell ill after consuming food given by Jolly. The child died shortly afterward. The shock was immense. Grief consumed the family. Yet even then, the idea of murder seemed unthinkable. Who could imagine someone poisoning a child? The thought was too horrifying to articulate, let alone act upon. Months later, Alfie's mother, Silly, also died after eating food prepared by Jolly. 2 deaths in the same household, involving a mother and child, should have raised alarms. But grief clouded judgment. Explanations were accepted. The pattern remained invisible to those living within it. By 2016, 6 members of the extended Thomas family were dead. All had died suddenly. All had consumed food or drink shortly before their deaths. All were connected to Jolly Joseph. Yet for 17 years, no official investigation linked these deaths together. What made Jolly Joseph so dangerous was not physical strength or aggression, but her mastery of manipulation. She was soft-spoken, attentive, and always present during moments of crisis. She cried when expected to cry. She remained calm when calmness was admired. She never appeared defensive or evasive. Her behavior reinforced the belief that she was a victim of repeated misfortune rather than its cause. Her lies extended beyond her career. She misrepresented her education, her finances, and her intentions. Each lie supported another, creating a web that was difficult to untangle. She used sympathy as currency and trust as camouflage. For years, the truth remained buried along with the bodies. Jolly eventually remarried, further solidifying the narrative that she was simply a woman rebuilding her life after unimaginable loss. Life in Koodathayi returned to normal, or so it seemed. The turning point came in 2019, not through forensic discovery, but through suspicion. Roy Thomas's brother began to question the pattern of deaths that had plagued his family. What once seemed like isolated tragedies now appeared disturbingly connected. He pushed for a deeper investigation and demanded that authorities re-examine the cases. Exhumations were ordered. Toxicology tests were conducted. The results were undeniable. Cyanide was found in the remains. The deaths were no longer accidents. They were murders. Police arrested Jolly Joseph, and under interrogation, she confessed. She admitted to poisoning 6 people over 17 years. The confession sent shockwaves across India. The image of a grieving, educated woman collapsed overnight, replaced by that of a serial killer who had operated undetected within her own family. Psychologists analyzing the case described Jolly as methodical, emotionally detached, and driven by control rather than impulse. Her actions were not the result of sudden rage. They were calculated decisions made over years. She showed little visible remorse during questioning, maintaining the same calm demeanor that had protected her for so long. The legal process that followed was complex. Each murder had to be reconstructed years after it occurred. Evidence was limited. Memories had faded. Yet the pattern was impossible to ignore. Prosecutors argued that Jolly's actions demonstrated premeditation, manipulation, and a chilling disregard for human life. The case forced society to confront uncomfortable truths. How could so many deaths go unquestioned for so long? Experts pointed to cultural factors, including deep respect for educated individuals, reluctance to suspect family members, and the absence of mandatory autopsies in cases of presumed natural death. Trust, in this case, became a vulnerability. Jolly Joseph's story is not only about murder. It is about deception sustained over nearly 2 decades. It is about how ordinary environments can conceal extraordinary cruelty. It is about how evil does not always announce itself with violence, but sometimes arrives quietly, serving food at the family table. Today, the Koodathayi cyanide murders stand as one of the darkest chapters in Indian criminal history. The case continues to be studied by criminologists, psychologists, and legal experts as an example of how serial killers can operate within familial settings, exploiting trust and routine. Jolly did not hide in the shadows. She lived openly among her victims. She attended funerals. She accepted condolences. She played the role expected of her at every stage. That is what makes her story so unsettling. She did not rely on fear. She relied on belief. For 17 years, she had access, patience, and trust. That was all she needed. Her victims were not strangers. They were family. They were people who shared meals with her, prayed with her, and trusted her completely. The betrayal at the heart of this case is what continues to haunt those who study it. The legacy of the case is not only one of horror, but of warning. It challenges assumptions about who is capable of violence. It exposes the dangers of unquestioned authority and unchecked trust. It reminds us that patterns matter, even when they unfold slowly. Jolly Joseph's calm smile, once a symbol of resilience, is now remembered as a mask. Behind it was a woman driven by control, ambition, and an absolute willingness to destroy anyone who stood in her way. And for 17 years, no one saw it coming.